I'd now like to ask Abhijit to introduce and chair a panel of government leaders who've been working on the challenges of implementing evidence-based policy. Thank you, Abhijit.
It's my great pleasure to introduce Martin Hirsch. Martin was the High Commissioner for Active Solidarity Against Poverty and High Commissioner for Youth in France, and is now, if you know somebody who's in Paris, tell them not to get sick. He's the head of hospitals of Paris, so it's a dangerous thing for him to be here. It's also his 50th birthday. I would not. Happy birthday to. You've been in many roles in the government. What's your sense of, what are places where evidence does get used? What's the sense in which, that evidence is there a particular way that evidence needs to be available to be usable?
Yes, thank you very much. First of all, forgive me. Until yesterday, I lived with the hope that my English will improve once I've turned 50. But obviously, as you can notice, I was in the control group. Sorry about that. I come from a country where we didn't like evidence-based policy because we didn't need it, because we know the truth. And for a second reason, it was we were not used with evidence-based policy and with randomized trials because we had this constitutional principle of equality, meaning that we were not allowed to give two different treatments to two people in the same situation. So first, we had to change the constitution, which is true. We changed the constitutional law 10 years ago, but as usual in France, we changed the law, and then we didn't do anything for a few years. At this time, I was the chairman of a big NGO in France called Emmaüs, who was in charge of dealing with poverty, with homeless people, and trying to help them to go back to work. And one evening, I had the phone call of a minister for social affairs of France, telling me, I can't sleep during the night, because I learned that we had 2 million children living in poverty. And I said, I have a fantastic idea. I will do something with you in partnership with your NGO. We'll give Christmas gifts to every child living under the poverty threshold. I said, it's absolutely stupid. Never with me. I said, but what to do? I said, children living in poverty don't need any gifts from the minister. They need that their parents can give them Christmas gift, meaning that their parents must be able to work, to earn more money when they go back to work, to be able to pay for housing, and we need an educational system which helps the children who needs more help. I said, well, not so stupid. Come in my office tomorrow morning. And I went in his office and I gave a few ideas. One of the ideas was taken from the US with the earning income tax credit system. I said, great, we'll make a press conference tomorrow to announce everything. I said, but you can't announce anything. I'm not sure it will work. And so I was in charge of issue a report on how to fight poverty. I said this story because it's how we introduced the idea. And so we spent 3 months with all stakeholders to try to find our path, our solutions. And we issued a report with 15 proposals. And the last proposal was, we are convinced that our ideas are good ideas, but we can't prove it. So we will recommend you to organize a fund for experimentation and to try our proposals. Don't reject it, don't adopt it, but just test it. After we had some difficulties to get this idea approved, But then they appoint me as member of the government, and I was in charge of implementing that. Before that, we needed to put it in the public debate. So that's very important. I will come back to this issue. It's very important to give the ideas in the public debate and not only in the office of the policymakers who will throw them out or take them and maybe don't keep the good principles. Second thing, then we passed a law to try to make randomization. In France, we have local authorities who are in charge of social policies. At this time, we use a strategy of Parmentier. You know Parmentier? Parmentier is the French guy which, at the 7th century, imports the potatoes to France. But when he arrives in France with these potatoes, everybody says it's come from the US, it's dangerous. And, but he wanted to convince French people to eat potatoes. What he did, he took a field, he put the potatoes in the field, and he asked to the royal guards to keep the field with their arms and their weapons, saying, so the French people, when they see something which is kept by guards, try to get the potatoes. And he was very successful. The proof is that now you say French fries when you eat potatoes. But I use this method saying, well, you have many constraints if you want to make randomization. So we just allow 20 local authorities to be in the process. Sorry about you. Maybe all of you want to have this fantastic opportunity to do that, but you'll be only 20 to have the authorization. Every politician, my colleagues say, you won't succeed, nobody will do that with the randomization, they will never be re-elected. If they said to one part of their constituency, you can get it, at the other part, you won't get it. We had 40 authorities who were applicants to get it. So I said, well, I'm sorry, it's difficult. I will take the 40. And so we had this program. Then we had many difficulties with youth in France, and Sarkozy asked me to become in charge of youth policies in the government. And I know that it was very difficult because when we had many failures in our youth policy, so we had to try something. And I came to say Sarkozy, and I said, if you want to appoint me, you have to give me 150 million euros, like the footballer players. 150 million euros just for randomized trials. He said, why? I said, first, because NGOs are very keen about that, they need that. I don't care about it. And then I said, because I have the discussion with a billionaire called Michael Bloomberg, I spent 1 hour with him, and he used randomized trials in New York. He put public money and his own money on these type of programs. He said, well, that's a deal. I give you the money. It's like Michael Greenstone says earlier, that you have to be in the head of the policymakers. If they don't care about poverty, but if they care about billionaires, you have to tell them that billionaires think it's important to do it. Thanks to that, we were able to do it. But the solution came from the academics. We had this great opportunity in France to have young academics who spend one part of their studies in Harvard or in Stanford, or in some of them are in this room, and came back and wrote articles and books about, in some countries, we experimented things. And they were ready to go on the field, and not only to stay in their office, as we saw in the video, but to go in the field. And with them, we were able to design programs on dropouts at schools, to design programs on go back to work programs, and so on. And what was absolutely fascinating is that it was quite easy to convince the field people, the social workers, the people who were elected in the cities and in the local authorities. That was quite easy because it was such a challenge, such exciting to tell them, you will try to improve the situation of the people that you are in responsibility of, but you will also try to build knowledge. My best memory is one day when we wanted to test if it's a good idea or not to subsidize the driving license of the young people to help them to go to find a job. And we put in the same room social workers and some researchers. And the academics said, well, I want to do this program because I want to publish something in a journal which will be published and read by 300 people in the world. And that's why I want to two samples of young people. So I thought they will fight themselves. But he convinced the social workers because he told them, you have a difficult job. I have a difficult job. But together, we can make fantastic progress. And we did this program, which was very interesting. And thanks to this program, we showed that when you subsidize driving license, you don't increase the proportion of young people going back to work. You just have to reform and to simplify the driving license system. And with this kind of program, we spare some money and we avoid supplementary public expenditure. So what is absolutely important is you have to work with the academics, and the academics have to defend publicly their opinion and to be able to influence not only in the lobby, but also in front of the public opinion. Because social affairs and science put together can transform the behaviors and the mentalities.